and this time I'm joined by Niels Harteman. I think many of you may know Niels because he's a moderator in our group and he sets up a lot of the invites and the events and everything else. So I'm really excited to do this interview. This is the fourth one in this series of interviews that I've been doing over the last few months, and so far they've gone quite well. So I know people that have watched them have found them helpful, and it's kind of different content. It's not just same old people. It's real men. It's men that are in this group, and I know that a number of men that are in this group have had their own insights and experiences over the many years they've been involved in the, I guess you could call it, the personal development world. And I wanted to give them a platform. I thought, well, we could go out and go and talk to all the people that I know or whatever, who are coaches or whatever else. But I thought, well, why don't we dive into getting to know each other a bit better? So if you're live and you're watching, say hello. You can leave us any questions or comments below if you are watching this, and happy to get to them. And if not, then don't. We're just carry on talking amongst ourselves. Yeah. So, firstly, welcome, Niels.
Hi, thank you.
Good to have you with us. I know you are a coach in your own right. You've been doing some interesting stuff with young people over the previous years, and I know you've got your own story to share. Yeah. So why don't we start off with that? Like, first of all, how old are you?
I'm 34.
And you live in
the Netherlands.
Okay.
In a really tiny little town, just in the middle of like the most rural part of the country. So I mean, I'd be surprised if anyone knows where Tiel is, but in Tiel.
Okay. And were you were born in the Netherlands? That's where you kind of born and brought up.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother is Austrian. My dad is like from Tiel, and yeah, they met. He was doing a gig as a guitarist, and my mom really liked him, and I'm the result, I guess.
And the rest is history. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I can see you have a guitar in the background, so you're also into music.
Yeah. That's like a big part of my story as well, because I was like really awkward growing up as a teenager. I was kind of always stuck between the groups, like the jocks, the nerds, the alternative people, and I was sort of bobbed in between the groups and never really fit in anywhere. But I really love making music, so I dove into that fully, and yeah, and then I injured my right hand, I guess, kind of permanently, and that caused me to like really have to reevaluate my life, because I thought I was like going to be at least a session musician, like someone who would work in studios and stuff, but that wasn't meant to be. And yeah.
How do you injure your hand?
It was a repetitive strain injury, RSI. I did quite physical labor as well. I had a part-time job and turned into like almost full-time, but it was really physically demanding. I was working out a lot and like playing video games and playing guitar, and it was all just far too much for my hands to keep up. And yeah, after a while, my right hand just gave up, and I couldn't do anything like for months.
Oh wow! I never knew that about you. I'm learning here too.
There you go.
And then how did you get into, I guess, personal development, or looking into, I guess, looking towards excellence?
Well, it sort of started like with that I had to quit my job. I didn't know where to go with school, because I finished school at 18 and I had to give up the guitar, so I was kind of in a I fell into a hole. There was just nothing for me to do and nothing left. So I got really up in my head, looking back at it now, and really depressed. And being like really stubborn, I wanted to figure it out, why I was so depressed and why I wasn't as happy as the people around me, or being like them to be really stubborn. And so I put like all the time I had, all the free time, into figuring out why people are happy or sad, and what the hell, how that works. And so I started off with like Reiki, acupressure, acupuncture, stuff like that, more body work, mainly to heal my hands as well. And from there, I started to realize that there was always sort of a mental aspect to people having a physical problem. And I started to dive more and more into self-development and self-help. So I went to my local library back like before the internet was really a thing.
So what year is this?
99-ish, 2000.
Oh, so quite some time ago.
Yeah. And so I checked out like all the self-help books I could find, just everything I could get. And I dove in, and I went from stuff like what's his name, Alan Watts.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, to Abraham Hicks stuff, and like try to figure all that law of attraction stuff out, and never really got anywhere. It didn't really help me, and then I started looking towards what could be really going on, and then I came across Michael Neill at some point. I think 2007, 2008-ish, somewhere along those lines. And that's when he started doing his radio program, and he started switching from being a regular coach, I guess.
Yeah, I think he was based a lot in NLP back in those days, wasn't he?
That's it, yeah, NLP. And then he switched over to 3 Principles, kind of. He never really talked about it in the beginning, but you could sense that there was something else going on in what he was doing. And it really intrigued me. And then at some point they started talking about, he got George Pransky on the show, and they talked about Sydney Banks. And I was like, wait, who's that? What are they talking about? And they were really, I shouldn't say this. They're really crediting their success and their improvements to this guy, to some guy called Sydney Banks. And I just had to find out who that was. So, like a little bit of Googling later, and I had a couple of books. Still Power was like the first one I got from Garrett Kramer. And that,
this is now like, what, in like 2011, I think that book came out, something like that.
Yeah. So it's like 10 years of just depression in and out, and trying to figure out what I was doing with my life, and like a couple of part-time jobs and stuff. And then, around 2011-ish, I went back to school, started studying psychology, looking back at it more to help myself and help anyone else, I guess. And I started reading a lot about 3 Principles, like Still Power, Michael Neill's book, Super Coach. Yeah. And then Inside Out Revolution, the first edition, and Missing Link, and lots of Sydney Banks stuff, and that really propelled me forward. But I was missing a lot of the action parts in trying to do something with it. It was all fairly heady and
Intellectual.
ethereal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started to realize that I wanted to do something more with it, you know. And that's when you came along, funnily enough, because I had a job in IT, and I knew it wasn't for me. I was like done with that, with IT, and uh, I did accounting as well, bookkeeping and stuff. And that
So was this
I
at the
was
same
done
time
with
as
that.
studying psychology, or was this kind of
Yeah,
afterwards? Oh, so you're studying psychology and doing some part-time work, or?
yeah, yeah. And then I started to realize that the psychology course wasn't it either, because I could really see that they were just training people to perform tricks and not really get anything behind the principles of psychology, and that's sort of like the three principles shine in, because that's like the thing they needed. But no one really was that interested. They just wanted you to learn what they thought was right, and I couldn't do that. For me, that was I couldn't continue with the course. So after like a year and a half, 2 years, I stopped. I dropped out, uh, and I'd saved up a bit of money from from part-time job, and I thought I'd be a coach, and like the idea of quitting the job and quitting school was like really it sounded good because I mean, if you're a coach, people will just come to you, right? But that's not really how it works. So I spent like months just trying to do stuff and having no clue of where to go. And then at some point, you messaged me uh, about coaching, and that was like the first step into really becoming more powerfully me, I guess.
I think that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
So one thing I'd really like to get out of this interview, and by the way, hello, Michael. Michael Fall is watching us today.
hey,
One thing that I'd love to get out of this video and content really is kind of not only your journey, but kind of what are some of the insights that you had that have helped you that might help other people.
yeah,
So I know that whilst you're a coach, you're a very new coach. You're certainly not Michael Neal or kind of Steve Chandler or anyone like that. But equally, I think we can all learn from everyone. And I'd love you to share kind of what have been some of the highlights for you over the last few in terms of what have you learned or had insights about that you wish that maybe you wish you would have learnt this earlier, or if someone's listening to this that might be helpful to them to hear.
yeah. One of the big ones, especially lately, is that you don't need to feel good to do something. You don't need to feel that you're in the right place to do. Taking action is just taking action. There's nothing else on it. And if you need to be in a certain place emotionally, or you need to feel like taking action, then you're going to wait a long time before you do anything.
Can you give an example of that around like you don't need to feel good to take action? What do you mean? Could you kind of flesh that out for us? Like,
yeah,
what does that mean?
For me, it really became apparent that I wasn't taking the steps I needed to take to get clients, which is just simply talking to people. So what I tended to do was like listen to tapes, watch videos, and sort of try to feel inspired. And then, like from that moment of inspiration, reach out to someone, anyone I knew, in order to like get into a conversation about coaching. and I'd spend like days, weeks, not feeling that inspired enough, I guess, to reach out. And it wasn't getting me anywhere. Nothing was happening, nothing was shifting, and I wasn't seeing it for myself that I was that I needed to let go of the idea of feeling inspired to reach out. And so during, I think, sometime between the last immersion and the one before, I really felt like there was some shifts in me about taking action, and I can't really pinpoint the exact moment, but there's like one piece in Steve Chandler's book, Wealth Warrior, about if you take the action, the inspiration will follow. So feeling inspired to take the action is like the opposite way, and inspiration will find you when you're doing things. And I experimented a little with it, and yeah, of course, it makes sense.
I love that, Niels, and I think that applies in so many situations because, so many, and I did this too, right? I would use my feelings as a gauge, as an indicator of whether I should take action or I shouldn't take action.
Yes.
So, if I felt like good, like you said, you feel inspired, and you talk about it, in terms of building your coaching practice. But I see this in anything. Like if I felt inspired to work out, then I'd go and work out. If I felt inspired to go and go and talk to a girl or something when I was at uni, then I'd do that. And I was always looking at that. Then what's funny for me is I then came across a personal development community, and I did the opposite. So I did if I'm shit scared to do something, then I should do it. Right?
Yeah.
But that's just another misunderstanding. And I kind of remember the day that I finally realized, oh, I don't need to do everything that I'm shit scared to do. Right? Because then you're still kind of aimless.
Yeah.
But it's about inside, I know what it is that I want to do. Right? I think we all do. I think deep down, everybody knows in their heart what it is that they want to do. And they might not have the whole plan. In fact, most of us won't, but we'll know at least what the next step is. And we don't need to wait to feel inspired, or we don't need to wait to feel shit scared or feel anything before we do it. It's kind of totally separate. So I love that you're seeing that yourself. And the other thing I want to pull out from what you said is that you experimented with this. And I think that's the biggest thing. So, we've got a few people watching us. Look, it doesn't matter whether, we say what we say makes sense or you're skeptical. I mean, you might completely agree with us, but if you don't test this out, then it will just be a nice thought. And what I love, what Niels is saying, is that he heard me say this or someone else say stuff like this, and then you've gone and tried it out and just taken action regardless of how you felt, and seen some positive results out of that.
Yeah, and it was definitely like a big part of the last immersion, where like I got up front, center stage for a bit of like on the spot coaching, I guess, and I can really see that what we talked about in that moment. I was really nervous to take the actions that I wanted to take, but it just made the most sense to take the actions despite of the feeling. And in that moment, I could really see like, wait, this is just, it's because I thought stuff that made me feel insecure, and that's it. There's nothing else on that. There's no reason to not take the action, because it was just an insecure feeling from thought, nothing else.
I don't know if you remember this from all your personal development work, but I remember at a certain point there was this whole thing about state, right? Like you've got to get into state, you've got to get into a good state.
Yeah.
And I would listen to music, like to pump my state or whatever.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is it didn't work all the time.
Yeah.
And whilst I'm not saying that doesn't have any impact. Ideally we want to be in a positive, uplifting, you know go kill it state whenever we're working or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's so freeing for me to know that you don't need to do that.
Right.
It's not also somewhere you need to get to, like, okay, first I get my state sorted, then I go and do shit.
Yeah. 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 It's sort of like what Abraham Hicks talks about in with their law of attraction kind of thing. That you need to be in like a joyful state by pivoting or finding better feeling thoughts, and then like from being annoyed, irritated, or angry to like becoming a little bit more neutral by thinking certain thoughts, and then trying to jump states and get higher. And when you're at like joy or pure bliss, then like life takes care of itself, and you'll never have to do anything, and everything sort of falls into place. And there was a lot of that going on in the back of my mind. I need to feel good, uh, otherwise any connection I make with anyone will be kind of crappy. And so, there's just a continuous cycle of I need to feel good, I don't feel good, I need to feel good, I don't feel good.
Yeah. So what else has been kind of shifting for you? What other insights got that might be helpful for you?
Well, one thing that I mean, a really practical thing that showed up today as well was that you don't have to be constantly busy or trying to do stuff or trying to make everything happen. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to be in a more quiet space. This morning, I had done lots of stuff, talked with a lot of people, and at like 2ish this afternoon, like an hour and a half ago, I felt like really like wound up and really stressed. And usually I'd go to like more coffee because I started feeling like physically really tired. But yeah, I've been looking more into the direction of slowing down. So I just was like, yeah, more coffee isn't going to work. Usually doesn't. So I'm just gonna sit outside in the backyard and just do nothing. And so I like just really slowed down mentally for like half an hour, and yeah, I felt good again and normal, and yeah, it's more at ease.
Do you find that slowing down actually helps you be more productive?
Yeah, definitely. Because yeah, it sort of feels like when you're really active, you just do stuff, and it kind of never really sticks to the wall. And slowing down, you see that the actions that are taking can be more efficient or effective. And so you really do get a bigger sense of a better sense of effective action to take instead of just doing anything and everything that comes up in your mind. So yeah, it's a huge increase in productivity and efficiency, definitely.
I love that as well, Niels, because again, from my own journey in the personal development world, there are certain coaches who are like very action based, just fucking do it, take massive action, all of that sort of stuff, and some of that can be really helpful, but again, on its own, I think you can end up being a busy fool. And I know I've been guilty of that. And again, when I started getting coached by Steve, he'd be coaching me to slow down, and I was thinking, what? Like, surely you should be like pushing me to go more and go faster. But it's that kind of paradox that slowing down can obviously help. Slowing down can often help us to get more done, because you're
Yeah,
right. When we're so sped up, and I know like a lot of men who this applies to, is we're so sped up that we make mistakes. We then end up procrastinating, um, rather than slowing down. And I tell the story often of when I came back from honeymoon and I was so tired, but I got work to do, and the old me was like, "No, you just get your head down and do it." But I was just
yeah,
not being very productive, and so I took it really easy for a few days. The following week, I was like the most productive I'd ever been, and I'm learning to kind of trust that natural rhythm of my own body a lot more than just like try and go flat out and
yeah,
crash.
yeah. For me, it's like, yeah, I need more coffee. I need more coffee. Just grab another cup of coffee, and you'll be like more active, and you can do more action and stuff. And it's really become a signpost along the way. If when I feel like I need more coffee, then it's like, no, don't. You need to slow down. And yeah, it really works. And honestly, you've helped me see that in a big way, especially during the immersion. It was so evident that uh, slowing down in silence is so incredibly powerful. That is, I don't know why or how it works, but it's so impactful to honestly slow down and quiet down a bit more and have more space for yourself to show up.
Well,
And yeah,
yeah, well, I think we live in a world, in a society where we're bombarded all the time with messages, with like I don't know, like it wasn't that many years ago, right? Like before we had iPhones, I would spend very little time on my phone,
yeah,
right? Like very, very little time on my phone. And yet, um, when I got my first iPhone, it was like, oh, what, Angry Birds. Like now we're so scared. I can't remember who said this. We're so scared of boredom,
yeah,
right? Like we're so scared of boredom that we can't be bored anymore. No one's got time. We're always like we've got distractions left, right, and center. And what that does is it keeps us so like whirring so fast all the time that we can't get stuff done.
yeah,
And it was never like that. I mean, we're not talking hundreds of years ago. I mean, we're literally talking what, about 10 years ago? What, the iPhone's been out for 10 years, right?
yeah,
Like 10 years ago, even smartphones, you wouldn't look at Facebook on your phone. I mean, Facebook was very different 10 years ago, but even then you wouldn't look at Facebook on your phone because it was crap. I remember my
yeah,
smartphone that I had, it was like a little like stylus thing, and it was really crappy and awkward to use. So you'd use it in emergencies,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? And that's part of the reason I do the immersions in that way, is like not because we're all going to sit around, cross our legs, and like chant or some shit like that, right? But it's in a
no,
really practical way. I find that when we give ourselves a bit of space mentally, that's when we get better ideas. It's when we can get perspective on things, and it has some real practical benefits.
yeah, 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 yeah. I love the practicality of it. I mean, it's nice to talk about like lots of heady stuff and or ethereal stuff. I love that. Philosophizing is great, but if there's nothing really practical behind it, then after a while it kind of gets boring and useless. And then, but this really, like I said, I don't know how it works, but it works.
So we're kind of, I like to keep these kind of fairly short, so we're kind of coming up to the half-hour mark. I know we've got a few people watching. If you've got any questions for Niels, please do kind of comment on Facebook, and we'll ask them to Niels before we finish. Um, if anyone's watching this on the replay, Niels, and they ask a question, are you happy to answer it at least by text?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just reach out to me, and yeah, we can have a chat. Whatever. It's great.
So while we're waiting for any questions to come through, one of the questions I've got for you is, what are you doing now in a practical way to step more into your own inner power, drive towards it?
Um, One of the big shifts, I guess, is that again, you've helped me see that the only reason I don't step into it is because I believe a bunch of thoughts about me that make me feel insecure, and that's it. And the more I feel insecure, the more I start to see that it's just a bunch of thought that still comes up, and thought that I can let go of, and that really frees me up to step into who I am. It's a letting go of like all bullshit about myself, and the more I let go of what I think I am or who I think I am, the more I show up as me, the real me.
That's so true, I think.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's like the biggest thing I could give anyone, or the biggest piece of advice. That whenever you start to think of how you should be, that's probably not the direction you should be heading into, and it's like a lot of conditioned thinking or thoughts or beliefs about yourself that you can let go of.
Yeah, I think you saw this in my other group. They were coaching someone today who thought they should be a certain way with their mother.
Yeah.
And I said, "Who said?" And the person said, "Oh, like because they're my mother." And I was like, "Who says that?" Right? Like we and we all do it. We all have these shoulds in our head, like, "Oh, I should be like that. I should be doing this much work. I shouldn't be doing that." And it's all just made up, right? And I think the
Yeah.
more that I see that it's made up for me, the more you see it's made up for you. It's so freeing, right? Because you can just
Yeah.
drop all that crap.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like a really cool video. Prince, what's his Prince
Yeah,
Shay?
yeah,
Yeah, that
awesome.
guy. Yeah, he posted it about Jim Carrey. I mean, it's gone viral, I suspect. But that's like a really cool video about that. Lots of stuff about yourself you just made up. It's not really true. It just feels like it's true. Yeah, time to let go of that.
Michael said it's great to listen to others describe their introduction. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for. Well, we're into our 33rd minute, so it's got flying by this time. Are there any final thoughts you want to share with the men in this group, Niels, before we finish?
Uh, yeah, this group is a really good space to open up. It's a really nice space to talk with people, talk with men who are looking in the same direction as you are. And even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it feels like you're a special snowflake, you're not. Most of us are going through kind of some of the similar stuff you're going through. So just share what you feel you need to share.
Very good point. I think we're more similar than we realize, and like that's one of my sayings. You're not a special little snowflake.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
we always think that our problems are our own, and whatever, we've got our unique set, but there's a lot more in common than we realize. Like you say, there's a saying: the more personal, the more universal. And I've really found that to be true over the last.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing today, Niels, and thank you for the stellar job you do. It's a great time to say thank you for all the work you do in this group, help set up
Ah,
the live coaching that I do every month, and helping me set up these interview series too. So,
yeah.
really want to thank you for all that hard work that you put in, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you as well. You're welcome, buddy.